Okay, we're talking about this G chord here, right? So G and your E minor pentatonic scale, but we're going to play it totally and absolutely as a G major pentatonic scale, which would sound like this. Okay, so you can hear for yourself that when we lay that down, we start getting those types of sounds. So, and I'm just making sure that. Okay, I'm seeing that maybe we're still having some issues. Oh no, maybe we're good. Okay, cool. All right. So if you know that scale, then great. Just keep on playing that and get that going on. And let's see. So the other thing that I want to show you is a G minor pentatonic scale. So that would start from the same root note, okay, and we're going to go like this: 3, 6, and I'm going to just call it the frets like that. 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 6, 3, 6. Okay. So again, if we go down 6, 3, 6, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 6, 3. And if you know that scale, great. Just use this opportunity. Just rip up and down it as fast and smoothly as you can, and just repeat and repeat and repeat. Okay, just get those fingers warmed up, and just to acknowledge maybe some of the more beginner people that might be on the call. Let's just get them going on this scale. So this, in a nutshell, is kind of the rock and blues sound that a lot of people have been using for many years. So let's see if I can actually do this. I'm gonna just lay down a really basic loop. Okay. So of course, just a G chord going. Now I'm gonna go back to my G. Okay, let's try that a couple times. Okay, and really emphasize that open G string. Okay, and you're probably hearing for yourself, it's very like country-esque, right? Now if I switch to that minor, really changes the vibe, but you can still hear that this still works. Okay, and then if I switch back to the G major, there's the G minor, right? Okay. So I just wanted to show you guys kind of the difference between those two sounds. So of course we've got G major and G minor. Now what I want to show you is kind of this extension of the G major pentatonic scale, that first one. So if we go up that scale again, so starting from the G, stop on that the G string, okay, go up to 4th fret, and this is a really clutch note. I've been using the word clutch a lot lately. And we've got 4th fret of the G, and that's going to give us this little passageway to extend this scale to the 3rd and 5th frets. Okay, of our G major pentatonic. So, okay, so really focus on, like if we just focus on that little pathway, we've got, and actually that's a great little passageway, is to start on the G string, the open G, because again, we're talking all about G in this lesson, so that establishes the key that we're in, and then so 0, 2, 4, 3, 5, 3, 5. And you'll hear for yourself that that third fret on the high E string really sounds kind of complete, and because that's the G note as well. So if this is simple for you, just get a little bit of practice moving your fingers here. See if you can do some slides. And of course, this is a really, really cool little ariato. So now, if I start using this zone and combining it with our minor pentatonic scale, which I can start from this G note, which is the 5th fret of the D string. Okay. Okay. Now let me put on that track again. So there's that major pentatonic sound. Okay, and the minor sound starting from the 5th fret. And then when I start mixing them, bending into that 4th fret from the minor third. So that would be the first step, is just kind of firstly get the big scales going on in our minor pentatonic scale. Okay, so that's kind of them in a big nutshell, like as to the big picture. But then also, like I was saying, we can go up and do this extension. Okay. And then also we were just talking about kind of really hearing the difference between the G major, which I was just playing, and the G minor, just starting from here. Okay. And of course, what's going on there on that little loop recording that I was playing is just, and you can hear for yourself that it just, you can really change the sound of it, and then when you start mixing these notes together, then that's really where the rock and blues sound really pops out. And so, cool. So, anyways, see Linda, Brian, Jamie, right on. Tim Allen, the famous actor. No, he's from Nova Scotia, Canada. Awesome. And Johnny Olds, Tim Allen, and also Big Jim 2478, and Eddie, tuning in from Texas. Right on, guys. Good to see you on the call. Thanks for joining me so much. Big Jim asks, are there any other scales that can be used with this progression? Yes, certainly. Okay, but what we're going to focus on in this particular progression here today is going to be G major and G minor. And like I was saying, at the actual track is going from basically a G to a C. So your 1 and your 4 chords. So stick with me here on these particular approaches, and I'll show you how to play these all over the neck and some really killer licks. So let's go ahead and pull up the tab for the very first section of this solo. So here's what it's going to sound like. Here's the melody that I've got composed for you, all right? So it's going to sound something like this. Oh, that is the wrong song, sorry. Okay, so now that we got this tab pulled up, so what you'll notice is, let me get the tab pulled up myself, just so I'm following along with you here. My goodness, where? Oh yeah. I did a fresh restart, so I just got to pull it up again. So, there it is. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bend that minor third from our minor pentatonic scale up a half step. So you'll see that right on the tab that you've got 3 1/2 bend. That's the very first note of the tab. So whenever you see 1/2 on tabs, what that means is that we're bending this note 1/2 step or 1 fret. So we're really hitting this note, the 4th fret of the G string, but we're accessing it from the 3rd fret of the G string. And what you want to do is just go, and just see if you can bend this note into that note via the 3rd fret. Okay, so there's the first note. And then when we see full on the tab, that big arrow where it says full, then that's in reference to a full step. So we've got half step and full step bends here. So in that case, we're bending the 5th fret, and we're bending that 5th fret up to the 7th fret note. So just do this first for yourself. Go up to the 7th fret, and then right? So just if you do a simple little bump, 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 then that will just get a little bit of a rhythm going on, so you can really try to make those sound essentially identical, right? So those are bends in a nutshell. So we've got half bends, full. Okay, so 3, 6, and then you'll see that arrow down, and that can reference a pull-off. So, okay, so that's one pick, right? And here's another bend on the 4th fret, hitting into this note. And so it's really, I know that this may seem like a lot of bending and things like that, but the key here is always resort back to, and you may not be able to grasp this right here, right this hot minute, but what we want to do is get back to this idea. And then we've got our minor pentatonic. Okay, and then if we blend those, then we've really got And that was probably the other thing I should have shown you is this scale. So if we blend those, again, we've got 5th fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 6th fret, okay? So let's go down to that again, starting from here. 6, 5, 3, 6, 5, 3, 5, 4, 3, and you can either end that on the G there, or the G here on the open G, or the G on the 5th fret of the D string, okay? So now what we're doing is we're bending. We're just bending into these notes. Now what I've tried to do here for you is make this super simple, because all we're going to do is do that exact same melody and that exact same sequence, but just on the next 2 strings down. So all that looks like is we're going to do a little pre-bend, okay, to the 5th fret of the B string now. So okay, so let's just switch back and forth between those. So we've got, and yeah, the big thing is just, we're going to really start on that major 3rd. Okay, and then we're just going to switch up. Okay, so let's just play that with the track, and then we'll move on. Here we go, my friends. Ready, go. And switch. Okay, so that's the first part of the tab that you'll see repeated a whole bunch, okay? So, but then when we get up to bar number 16, then we're gonna just switch it up and play just a slight variation that will get us into the next lick here. So, all we're gonna do is we're gonna do just a fun little tasty lick, right focusing frets and the 3rd fret. Really focusing on these guys, a major pentatonic, but with a bend, so we're definitely accessing some of those kind of in-between notes. Okay, so here we've got a 5th fret. Right? So I've got a specific lick here kind of tabbed out for you, and but just know that you can just do any kind of combination of bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs and anything just right here in this. Right? There's just all kinds of really magical zones to get access to those rock and blues sounds right here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're on bar 17, we're going to switch up the melody here, and we're going to go down into this kind of zone where we're really tapping into that major pentatonic sound. So here's the melody. We've got this little hammer on. Okay, so there's the first lick. And this is just like awesome, good stuff to know for blues and rock kind of stuff. So, okay, and there's that connector that we talked about, the 4th and 3rd frets. Okay, and yeah, you can just get all kinds of little melodies going on here. You can just riff on that all day long. So yeah, it's just really focusing on these guys. Don't forget about that little bend, because what are we doing? We're bending into this note right here, which is part of our minor pentatonic scale. So there's these major notes. Right, so really mixing there. We're just tapping into that minor vibe just a little bit. Okay. And then this is a thing that I'm lifting from the solo from Wish You Were Here. Okay, so. Okay. So here's the lick all together starting from bar 17. So. And then another classic little zone, which is kind of like if you think about kind of like the intro to that Van Morrison song, Brown Eyed Girl. But so many guitar players play this in all kinds of different contexts. So as you can see, I'm just using my 3rd and 2nd finger, or sorry, my 2nd and 3rd finger on the G and high E strings, both on the 7th fret. So I'm sliding in this one first, and then hitting that high E string in behind it. So again, that whole line looks like this. Okay, so some pretty classic major pentatonic type of sounds. And yeah, definitely lifting from some really iconic licks and from iconic songs. So from here, we've got another little tasty lick right in that 5th fret zone. And I do have a specific tabbed out lick here for you on bar 20, but again, it doesn't really matter too much. If you want to learn that specific lick, then great. And if you have Guitar Pro and you have a Jam Play membership, then you can download this and run it into Guitar Pro and get that exact same lick going on. But yeah, just again, the idea is just to do some bends, licks, hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, anything that you want in there, some sort of like just little connector where we can get into this next section, okay? Now we're gonna lock it and load it on a lick that's lifted from The Last Dance of Mary Jane by Tom Petty, which of course sounds like this. And so this is really all about minor pentatonic. However, as you can hear, I'm playing 2 notes at a time. So when I hit these 2 notes, both on the 5th fret of the G string and B string, really I'm outlining the C major chord. Okay, or another way to think about that is just the fact of mixing major and minor pentatonic, how we've got the major pentatonic notes are right here, and then the minor pentatonic notes kind of sounds like a Eric Clapton song, doesn't it? Anyways, so okay, and of course that melody is all kinds of great stuff in there. Okay, so definitely this is a great little zone to know how to play. And just like we had talked about that little connector, well, we can do it with a minor pentatonic scale too. So when we climb up our minor pentatonic scale, this is another like exact same kind of concept. An exact same layout as that major pentatonic scale that we talked about. So in this case, we're going to go up to the 7th fret and the 6th fret of the G string, B string. Okay, so maybe you want to try that to just kind of bring it into context of that minor pentatonic scale. And exactly like we did with the major pentatonic scale, well, we can do that exact same thing with the minor pentatonic. And so one way that a lot of people teach major pentatonic to guitarists is to just show them, okay, it's just your minor pentatonic scales 3 frets that way, okay? And when you kind of see this, how we've got, and then we've got, you can actually see that, yes, that is indeed true, okay? I've just never personally had a lot of luck with that methodology and applying it to my own playing. So I don't really like to teach it that way because I really think that minor pentatonic and major pentatonic kind of deserve a different approach altogether rather than just seeing them as the same scales, just starting on different frets. But anyways, I just wanted to point that out because, yeah, you can see. And, okay, exact same kind of layout, exact same feel, just starting from different frets, okay? So that's gonna bring us into, so we're gonna hit that. So right after the last dance with Mary Jane lick, you can kind of go back 1 fret. If you want, if you like that sound, it kind of reminds me of ZZ Top. Or just just a classic blues type of thing, right? So that's what happens right after that last dance with Mary Jane lick. And then that's going to bring us into this zone. Okay, so right here we can access, so this is really the minor note, but we're going to bend that up half a step, which means that we're going to be accessing this note, okay, which is the major third of G. It gives it a lot of tension, as you can hear. So whenever you find yourself in this box right here, these 4 notes, right? As you can hear for yourself, it's just a really classic zone to play. So I've got a lick lined up here for you. Now we're going to go up to 8th fret, and we're going to go classic Albert King style lick or Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay, so just bending up that 10th fret up to the 12th fret note. Okay. Okay, so we could spend a whole lesson just on this zone and how to, like, you can really just play the whole jam track right here. But yeah, so that's kind of what's going on there. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm calling the Albert King box. And if you like Albert King, make sure to check out Rock Guitar Solo of the Week -- 2, where I went into Albert King style in depth. Okay, so that's bringing us to the end of, the start of bar 28 is going to be the next section. And this is what I'm calling the BB box. And this is kind of tapping into more of these major pentatonic sounds again. And really the layout here, okay, you can kind of think about this as, if you know your bar chords, you can kind of think about these notes being right out of your bar chords, but with the exception of the 10th frets. But yeah, so here's the layout, because we're going to be playing these chords over a C major, and a bar chord on the 8th fret is a C major. So anyways, so we've got 9th fret, 10th, 12th, 10, and 12. So 9, 10, 12, 10, 12. And really focusing on this note on the B string, that's going to kind of bring all these licks together, because we're in the key of G, right? So if you kind of bring it back there on the B string, then whatever you play around here will just kind of bring it back home. All right, so if you finish your licks, you know, so there's a lot of good sounds right there. Now, the licks that I have tabbed out for you here, we're going to go 8 into 9, up to 12, okay, with a little bend there to accentuate that major third, or even like a quarter bend is how I've tabbed it out. Just kind of hinting at that major third. So, okay, I love this lick because there's a big separation there, obviously, like, because sometimes a lot of us, we just really play our pentatonic scales and our licks just really close together. There's nothing wrong with that. But as soon as we get a big, you know, we've got this big jump from 12th fret to 6th fret. Okay? And we can dive back into this zone on the guitar a little bit more in depth with kind of more classic B.B. King style lick, which is, again, sliding into that 9th fret. And this lick is going to start on the on bar 30. Okay. Okay, so that's 10 going into 12. So instead of just hitting the note, we're going to bend into it. And this is a really cool thing. It's just 10, 9, 8. Okay, it's really classic B.B. King type of thing right there. So 10 to 12. And then chromatically down 10, 9, 8. Okay, and really just focusing. Okay, so this would be a great zone, as I'm sure you're hearing, to just spend some time on. And I'll just rip this just for a second, which is, and I see a question came in from Keith Johnston, which I'll get to in just a second. So here's this whole zone. So just to give you a little idea what that sounds like, and again, you can just spend, you know, a full pass of the jam track just ripping it up just in that one zone, and really get an idea how that zone works. And I've laid out a couple of really tasty licks for you here. And so Keith Johnson asks, I have a hard time bending to an exact pitch. Do you have any go-to exercises? Yeah, so Keith, that is a very common problem, so no worries. And what I would do is, if you start in the middle of the neck, the strings are a little easier to bend rather than, like, say down here, the strings are a little harder. So say if we use this example of trying to bend the high E string up from the 10th fret and to hit the exact pitch of the 12th fret, well, what you want to do is do that thing I was doing earlier where you go, okay, that kind of establishes, just kind of like establishes it into your brain. And now do the exact same rhythm, but bend the 10th fret up. See, I was off there, right? You can hear like the ones they're just off. So another thing is actually just turning on your tuner and yeah, just bending that note into pitch, and you'll see if you're sharp or flat. Okay, so yeah, bends are tricky, but also make sure that you've got 2 or 3 fingers lined up behind each one of your bends, so you get more muscle on the string. Okay, a lot of guys are trying to bend like this, and they just fall flat because they just don't have enough strength and muscle on the string. So. All right, so moving along, my friends, we've got some other tasty licks, and actually it gets, the whole solo here, basically from here on, gets a lot easier, because one of the big things that a lot of people forget is, and here's a big golden nugget that I want you to take away from this lesson, all right? So we learned all the stuff down here, right? Like these scales and mixing them and kind of approaching them separately and together, you know, major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, and then mixed together. Now, and we learned all kinds of licks down here, but check this out. If we go ahead and play that Last Dance with Mary Jane lick, or, yeah, so if we just take that. Okay, so what if you take that up a full 12 frets, okay? Well, there you go. You got a whole nother zone and a whole nother vibe to access without necessarily learning a bunch of new stuff, okay? So, but the trick is just knowing that, okay, here's my G box, and I can play that starting from the 15th fret, right? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to basically access those exact same licks that we're playing down here, but we're going to play them up here now, and they'll give you a completely new and fresh tonality, okay? So starting on, what are we, bar 33, so this is page 2 of the PDF, is this. So we've got now, that may look like a brand new lick, but if you stuck with me, you know, say 10 minutes ago, we were working on this. Okay, so we had this, and we were really focusing on there. Well, check it out. On the 12th and 14th frets, it's the exact same licks, the exact same notes, but it's on a different part of the neck, and now we're, instead of open strings, we're using fretted notes, and we'll get a whole new sound. Okay, so we're gonna really just approach these exact same licks, and again, starting from bar 33. And again, there's that Wish You Were Here type of lick. with that little connector. And there we are on the 19th fret with that. Okay, so that whole lick. All right, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this section because we basically, like I said, we've gone over these licks in depth, okay? So I'm just going to stop it right there, but that is the lick on bar 33, page 2 of the PDF. And then what do we got? Then we go up, oh yeah, so we're going to do another just kind of connecting lick on the 15th and 17th frets. Okay, and then we're going to do the Last Dance with Mary Jane lick. Okay, I finished it off like this on the 18th fret. Okay, and then we're looking at bar 41. And this, my friends, just brings it back to the melody that we're playing at the very beginning, but an octave higher, okay? So we're going to be getting back to this thing, 16 to 17. And then the exact same thing on the next set of strings. Okay, so of course those were all the same licks that we had covered at the beginning of the lesson, but they're just an octave higher. Okay, and like I said, that's a big golden nugget that I want you to take away from this lesson, which is, you know, really, yeah, focus on some really juicy licks and get those going on and get those under your fingers. But just remember that they'll have a completely different sound and completely different vibe and context when you move those up an entire octave, which is just simply 12 frets higher than you were playing them down here. Okay, and so I have this all tabbed out for you, but like I was saying, when you kind of learn them in one zone and get them in your head and understand what the melody is, then applying them 12 frets higher becomes a whole lot easier. So guys, what we're going to do now is open up the doors for Q&A. If you do have any questions about guitar, about music, about what we went over in today's lesson, anything that you wanted me to go over on the actual the tabs or any of these licks that you wanted to go over, I'm more than happy to answer anything that you might have which is guitar related. Okay, so go ahead and get those typing fingers warmed up. I'm gonna have a blast over this this jam track while those come in, and also just essentially execute this solo and really hitting on kind of the main points that we went over here today. All right, so here we go. And by that, I meant, here we go.
All right. So hopefully you could hear some of those licks in action, and of course I was kind of expanding on those licks there at the end and improvising and stuff. But yeah, just so you know, all that stuff that I was doing there at the end is mixing major and minor pentatonic, and yeah, and kind of in a nutshell, what we're doing is on the G chord, I'm really emphasizing the major notes, and then on the C chord, I'm really emphasizing some of those minor notes, which actually end up being major notes over the key of C, and that's maybe maybe for another day. But yeah, that's a great way to think about your 1 chord and your 4 chord, which are just all over blues and rock, right? So, and that's always a method that you can do to approach your 1 chord and your 4 chord is you've got kind of major notes on that first on that first chord and then switch to minor on the next chord. But also it works the other way too. So anyways, so I see that we got a couple of questions coming in. And by the way, guys, just thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know if you guys have caught any of the other rock guitar solos of the week. This is week 6 now, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been pretty challenging for me to put together these solos and the jam tracks and you know, try to meld those into concepts. So I really just do appreciate you tuning in and hanging with me here, and I get to share something I'm really passionate about and, you know, ideas that have really helped me along my journey. So okay, so we've got some questions. So Sean Sims asked, what type of overdrive are you using? The tone is amazing. Cheers, man. Thank you. So actually so right here, okay, so during the actual lesson for this tone, okay, so that tone is all a Vertex dynamic distortion pedal, okay? I've been using it for about 1.5 years now, and I really, really like it. I find it really versatile. It's great for, like, when I plug it into an amp like this, which doesn't have a distortion channel, I can get a really nice high gain tone out of it. But it's cool because as soon as you back down your volume knobs, it just cleans up. But then when I crank it up, right, so it's really like volume knob sensitive to that, to the pedal. And, but also it's just a great, like, super versatile. Like I said, you can go high gain with it. I've got the gain turned about up halfway right now, but a lot of times I'm just using it as like a mild overdrive, just to push my amps just a little bit more and bring a little brightness into it. So anyways, the dynamic distortion made by Vertex, can't recommend it enough. It's super good, and they've got all kinds of other great stuff. But then when I was jamming over the tracks, I was always turning on my full tone octa fuzz set to the fuzz setting. So that's just a pretty basic fuzz pedal, kind of a 1970s style fuzz. So here's that tone, like here's just the dynamic distortion. And then when I put on the fuzz, okay, so there is a big volume boost there too, so sometimes louder really sounds a lot better. So okay, so that's getting that kind of vibe. And yeah, and don't forget that there's also a little bit of reverb. This much reverb, which isn't very much. It's just the difference between this and, right, just to give a little bit of room, ambience. And then there's also like a fair bit of delay. I don't know, it's still like pretty minimal, right? But there is a delay going on too. And yeah, I just find like just playing guitar in general with like a tiny bit of reverb especially just really helps me out and makes me enjoy my sound a little bit more and helps me get into it. But yeah, so the full tone octa fuzz and the dynamic distortion. And also, guys, I'm not using any of these amps. You don't see any of these switches on, right? There's no lights on. I'm actually running it, running the setup through what you call a Mod 5 by Rockboard. Who here has heard of Rockboard? Just let me know, type of capital YES if you heard of Rockboard. But I'm going to be releasing a bunch of Rockboard videos on my YouTube channel because I really, really love what they're doing. So I'm just running my pedals into the Rockboard Mod 5, and that's providing me some cabinet emulation. So cabinet would be like this part. You got your head and you got your cabinet. Well, it's got a selector switch where you can switch a bunch of different styles of cabinets. So I'm actually not using any amps. This is just really relying on the dynamic distortion for my amp sound and the Rockboard Mod 5 to get the cabinet sound. So anyways, I've been really liking this setup because it's allowing me to do these lessons and yeah, like really simplify my setup is just going straight into my audio recording interface so I can stream out to you guys. So All right. So let me know if there's some other questions here. Okay, so Sharon asks, can I play the solo in a different key, and does it still work with the track? Not really. Okay, if you can, then kudos to you, because what's going on here is we've got a G chord, so we've got to G to C to F to C, okay? And so that's really what the track is relying heavily on, are those three chords. And so certainly you can emphasize certain C major notes or F major notes, okay? And especially when those chords are happening, even though they only happen for a quick second, certainly notes from F major and C major will really work. But essentially, that's what we're doing by mixing G major and G minor pentatonic, is you're able to hit a lot of the G notes, and you're able to hit a lot of the C major notes, okay? So I would encourage you guys to look at this PDF and get the jam track, and mess around with this particular solo and see if you can kind of connect the dots in terms of what scales are being used and how these licks are derived from these sounds. But and by the way, if you want to download the PDF and download the jam track, that's for Jam Play members only. And you'll see in the comments of the Campfire Guitar Star YouTube channel that I've got a 7-day free trial link. So if you hit that link, you can actually register for a 7-day free trial with no credit card required or anything like that. And it just gives you full access for 7 days to their entire platform, which includes 6 of my courses. And like I was saying, you'll be able to get all the PDF downloads and the jam tracks that I've been recording here in my studio. So you'll be able to just download those and own them, all right? So that's all included with a 7-day free trial. So, all right, guys, so thanks so much for tuning in. Tune in next Friday at the same time, the same place for Rock Guitar Solo of the Week number 7. And until then, keep on ripping it up and have a great weekend. Catch you later.